So I had lots of clients and students who would come to me who were in search of a meaningful pathway forward, who said, well, I don't know what to do. And I would say, well, what do you want for your life? And they say, well, I really don't know. And so then I learned two things about that. The first is, don't do nothing. That's a big mistake, because all you do is get older and weaker and you withdraw more. And so even if you don't know what to do, pursuing nothing is a very bad idea. You have no hope then, because hope comes from pursuit, and you're anxious because you need to specify a path. So you have no hope and you're anxious if you do nothing. So nothing is not the answer. That means nihilism is not the answer. And I don't think that's shocking to people, but it's worth laying it out conceptually.
Seems uncontroversial to me, Jordan.
So then the next proposition was something like this. Well, look, you don't know what to do. So why don't we just look and see what other people do that seems to work? And maybe you don't have to do any of these things or all of these things, but if you don't know where to start, here's a good place to start. And this is also something conservatives can offer. It's like, well, here's the basic template for a reasonably tolerable life. We'll begin with that low bar. So there's 7 or 8 major domains. So you don't know what to do with your life. Well, let's break your life down. Probably you want an intimate partner. Most people do. Now, you might not, but probably you do, even if you think you don't. And so you might be one of those exceptions, but don't assume that to begin with, because that's an uncomfortable place to be if it's true. Now, maybe you're a radically creative genius like Leonardo da Vinci or Picasso, and you're so idiosyncratic that you can't bind yourself to any one person. But, you know, they were 1 in a billion, and probably you're not. Now, maybe you are, but that's a whole different kettle of fish. Probably you want a family of some sort, parents, you want to have a relationship with them, siblings, children. Most people have children. That's the best relationship you're ever going to have if you're fortunate enough to engage in it. And so you probably need a vision for that of some sort. Friends, helpful to have some friends. You could develop a vision for that. You need a job or a career, because otherwise you die, and people think you're useless. They shun you, and then you die. That's a bad outcome, unless that's what you're after. You should regulate your behavior in relationship to temptations like drug and alcohol abuse and sex, because short-term impulsive hedonic gratification doesn't play out well across time, and it tends to make you unpopular. So that's not a good recipe for long-term progress into the future. You should think hard about doing something on the civic front. You should take care of yourself mentally and physically. You should have a plan for that. You need an educational plan, because there's probably something you could learn and get better at, and that doesn't have to be academic. It could be extremely practical or creative. And you should figure out how to make productive, generous use of the time you have when you're not working. And so that's like a conservative vision, right? Because it fleshes out the generic landscape of human striving. And it's a good place to start if you don't know where to start. You could start with one of those things and move towards it, or 2 or 4, and maybe you don't have to do all of them. But my experience as a clinician has been that if you are failing on all 8 of those fronts, you're not depressed, you just have a terrible life.